Sarah.
Hello, Matt.
Hello, Sarah. How are you?
I'm so happy to be here. This is one of my favorite places to do comedy.
Yeah.
We all say that Symposia.
That's
if you
really
guys
sweet.
haven't come out to a show yet, you got to get here. BYOB, right?
We do BYOB, $15 tickets. That's including with the ticket fee, because I'm not going to do that to people. I'm not going to get them with the ticket fee. That one always bothers me. Before we get started, Sarah, I do just have to pay you a huge compliment.
Yes.
Which is that I saw you, I think, a few years ago for the first time, just at like some mics or something like that. You're so goddamn funny.
Thank you.
Of course. And, you know, it's really, what's the word I'm looking for? It's really evident that you work your butt off.
Oh,
that you are
thank you.
out here doing so much, and it's really inspiring to watch, and I'm excited to see where your career goes and
Thank
and
you.
everything. Oh my God, of course.
And likewise, I'm excited
Oh,
to
that's
see you
very
have a little Birbiglia-esque special of your own.
Yeah, working on the solo show, which we're going to plug up top.
Oh,
It
hell
should be
yeah.
fun.
Hell yeah. I feel like comedy, too, it's like, you know, sometimes it feels like you're going nowhere because you're just grinding and grinding and
Totally,
grinding. But
yeah.
when you look back on, like, incrementally how that, like, shapes up, and, you know, we're both still in the first 5 years.
Totally.
So it's like, it sometimes can feel where you're like, this is literally going nowhere. But, like, it's really, thank you. I really appreciate that.
No, absolutely. And oh my God, I'm getting coffee.
I haven't been going to as many mics recently, though, just because you understand too, like with the day job too.
Yeah.
It sometimes like something's got to give. I'm tired.
No, totally. And are you able to find? I think one of the challenges now with everything being on social media and so much about like putting yourself out there. Do you have a day job where you're able to find that balance?
I do, and a lot of people in my industry be surprised by that because I'm in consulting.
Sure.
The role I have, I've had it for a long time. I've been in the company for a long time, so I can do it balance wise. The issue is that if I want to, like, all my bosses are like, you could, you know what I mean? I could do more, but I could like try and get promoted and, you know, keep becoming more client facing and managing like bigger accounts and stuff. But I tell them like I don't want to do that because I need the balance.
Sure.
And they're happy to have me continue working for them. Right now, it's a little bit harder only because we're doing a really big deal. We're trying to get like a lot of work sold to our client and get our contract renewed. So like this first half of the year is going to be like it might be harder day to day to, you know, grind at the mics or whatever, but as long as I still have like weekends and stuff like that, I think I'll be able to like keep up. But I've been able to find the balance for the most part. And I'm lucky too that everyone at my job knows I do comedy and they either don't care or think it's cool.
Yeah,
which is like surprising. But to be honest, like a lot of times people are human and they're like, yeah, that's awesome. That's so funny.
No,
like,
and what's really cool is because so I was actually just over at, I won't say the comedy club, but I was helping out with a certain school. And one of the questions that came up was like, how do you know, hold on, I'm just getting some water. I just want to turn it down a little bit just from the pipes and stuff like
Got
that.
it.
But now can you hear me? Yeah. Sorry, Sarah.
it's so funny.
No, but I used to help out this comedy school in New York City, and one of the questions like one of the newer students had is like when you are, you have to be public to do this. You have to be a public person. How do you manage that like with your work-life balance? So I'm so glad to hear that you've been able to do that while working. I do have a funny story I do want to tell you.
Please.
Which is that at my last job, and again, I won't say where it was, but I was up for promotion and I was being reviewed by one of the team members. So I had a call with this executive guy and very serious, like took himself very seriously, like in the corporate world, who I'm sure you're like familiar with.
Oh yeah.
And he goes, Matt, I'm just going to like be honest. We ended the call. He was like, you know, you're doing great. And, you know, it's going to be a yes from me. So I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. Amazing. I went on 5 more interviews for this promotion where they knew me internally. Yeah. Everyone knew me. So I made this TikTok and I was like, about like the job process. And I was like, you know, I'm looking for a new job. I had 2 interviews, 4 test cases. They made me do the American Ninja Warrior contest. They, you know, blood test. Latrelli thought experiment thing, except we actually did it. So like, you know, just like fun stuff like that. When I think it got like 2 million views or something like that, that executive DM'd me that video that a corporate meme account had reposted. And this is before I heard back.
Yeah.
So I'm in the dark for months, for like two or 3 months. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get like fired or whatever. I hear back from a manager below him, and he is like, hey, Matt, sorry we're taking so long. We really like you. We want you to come on board for the position. So I was like, oh, this is like great. I thought I wasn't going to get it. I went out for a happy hour a few months later after I was in, and I was like, hey, what was like with that pause? He goes, okay, here's the deal. He was like,
Spill the tea.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, the guy that DM'd you hated you. He was like, he wanted you gone. He wanted you fired. His boss loved it. He loved it so much. He was like, oh my God, this guy has a sense of humor. Like, we got to get him on his team.
Yeah.
So to that point, I think it's important to remember that people are human. And I think it is nice where it's like, people are okay and accepting if you have this different side of yourself. And it's just so wonderful to hear. And again, we're going to plug all your stuff up top, your social media and stuff to follow. I do want to get into your low point.
Yes.
And we were talking a little bit about it before.
Off camera.
Because it has to off camera.
Ooh.
Exclusive.
Ooh.
Join the Patreon. There's no Patreon. But
Not yet.
Maybe one day.
One day.
But we were talking about relationships.
Yes.
And you're very generous for coming on because you want to tell us a little bit about your experience contracting an STD.
Yes, I do. It's my second STD. I got HPV in college, but that was kind of like, everyone has that.
Everyone's got it. It's fine.
And I think that went away, so it wasn't even a big deal. But I will talk about. I'm very open in my stand-up. Is that I found out that I had. I don't know how long I've had it, but I'm pretty sure I got herpes type 2, genital herpes. Last year, and I talk about it in my set. I'm very open about it. I do a lot of roast battles. People bring it up all the time. Like, it's not something that I'm necessarily ashamed of now, just because I'm like, well, what am I gonna do about it? It's not even. And what people don't know about like herpes, it's also so funny because whenever, like, half the time when I'll bring it up or at a roast or whatever, I'll say it and someone will be like, we gotta clean the microphone. I'm like, it's not that kind of herpes. First of all. But the thing that people don't really know is, like, one, you don't have it all the time.
Sure.
Like, you get an outbreak, which is unpleasant. And then the way that it's treated is it's just like a very low dose antiviral pill.
Right. And
that you take it for like 3 days. And it's kind of almost like, when you have a UTI and you have to take meds for that. And, but, STDs in New York, a lot of people people are more like kind of chill and accepting, but a lot of times, especially for women, people think STD disgusting.
Yeah, and it's hard too because I know I'm friends with. I've had a lot of friends on Long Island, and I mean some of them I will say if it's come up in conversation and they've had some pretty negative things to say about it. So I mean, what like. Can you take us into the story about like how you discovered that you had it?
So it kind of goes back to so for like I'll kind of tell the story. So I've been single for a while. I've had a lot of like I haven't had a serious.
We'll plug you up top.
Yeah, Sarah Barnitt on Instagram. But I haven't had a serious relationship in about 3 years.
Okay.
Had a lot of messy situationships with people that I've met in the community. So some would say, or, people that I meet on apps or whatever. And I, was always like kind of fine with it. But I, sometimes we'll catch feelings for the person. And there was somebody that I had actually didn't view him like romantically at first. You know what I mean? We met at a festival. We became friends. Okay. And then, we became closer friends. And then one night we make out at a bar and all of a sudden we're fucking all the time. And to me, I grew very attached to this person because one, great guy. Like, I'm like, he's awesome. I love hanging out with him. And it was probably the best sex that I'd ever had. Sure. It's also the least safe sex I have ever had.
But that's one of the reasons it was great.
It was great. Yeah, no, exactly. We were not being safe. We were not using protection ever. Okay. And for me, it was fine because I assumed, because, he had mentioned he was clean and I had gotten an STD test. A little couple months before, and it was clean.
Okay,
First
so
of all, but they don't test for herpes. That's the one thing they don't tell you. But the other thing is that even when they test for herpes, if you don't have a visible sore, the test is not really accurate. So like you could have it and not know because either they don't test for it or the test, really it's like chicken or egg. You need to have it before.
Right.
So, and I'm spending so much time with this guy, I really kind of like him a lot, and I'm just thinking like the longer that I do this, he's gonna want me to be his actual partner, his actual girlfriend.
Sure. And now, how long? Oh, I guess at this point, how long have you guys been?
This was a toxic 3-month situationship, which, by the way, things are fine now. We're friends. It's kind of like water under the bridge, but I start because after like maybe the 3rd month, his demeanor kind of changes. And I didn't know if I wasn't sleeping with anybody else, mostly because I'm like, I don't have the fucking time. You know what I mean? It's like, because we know we got a day job and a night job.
Exactly. You just don't have the time.
I don't have the time. If I got a dick that I'm happy with, I'm going to stick with it, you know? So I assumed that he was like in the same boat. And then one time, how did it go? This was like in June of last year. And then at one point, this was like right before it happens, he calls me and wants to talk about like producing a comedy thing together. Okay. But he's like, but we haven't like talked about what we're doing. So we kind of parlayed that into trying to have a discussion. And at this point, it's like 10 o'clock on a Monday night. I'm exhausted. I'm anxious. So I kind of like freeze and punt it. And he kind of freezes and punts it as well. And we'll just keep doing it. We're fine. And I thought maybe, he wants to talk about being official. That's what he wants. No.
So you thought he wanted to be official, but he was
define the relationship. But turns out that wasn't what he was going to say. But because my reaction was like, we don't need to talk about it. Like he didn't bring it up again. So
okay.
I feel distinctly his energy change after that. He's at my house one time. I see him literally like in my bed next to me,
sure,
in the apartment where I pay many American dollars to rent. And he's literally like looking at another girl's nudes next to me. And I'm like,
no.
Okay. The next day he leaves, literally my vagina is burning. And I'm like, okay, interesting. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a yeast infection.
Yeah.
So I literally get Monistat and I'm putting in yeast infection medications to something that's not a yeast infection, so it makes it worse. And then
Sarah.
Yeah, awful. Because I didn't know. I thought my sisters get yeast infections all the time, so I thought that's what it was. And then I go to the doctor. Finally, she's like, "Oh no, this is herpes. Take this." And so I text him. I'm like, I found out that I had it, and he's like, "Well,
wait. Can we go back because I want to know that moment when you're in the doctor's office and they tell you have herpes. Like, what are you feeling? Can you take us back to that moment?
Honestly, I was just because it was very painful. To my knowledge, that was my first outbreak, and it was super painful. So I'm glad I knew what it was because then I could just take it. I knew how to treat it.
So you were feeling relief.
I was honestly fine. Like I took it pretty well. I wasn't upset at that because I kind of like was like, okay, the name of the game, fine. So I was honest. So I was like,
the name of the game.
It's the name of the game. But so honestly, finding out that I had the STD didn't really do anything to me. But afterwards, I text him and he's like, well, did you get tested? And I'm like, yeah, I had told you I'd gotten tested. He's like, but when was it? I'm like this. And then I'm like, well, I'm not sleeping with anybody else. So I just like want you to know.
So like, he's not even asking how you're feeling.
Are you okay?
Like,
no, he's just like, I'm fine. Like I got it. I don't know who you got it from, but it wasn't me. I'm like, not only am I not sleeping with anyone else, I hadn't slept with anybody else in a long time. So I'm like, unless it had been dormant in my system, which can happen.
Sure, I've heard that.
Unless it'd been dormant in my system for years or months or whatever, chances are it was him, and he, did not respond well to that. And then he kind of like pulls away for like a few days and doesn't really talk to me. And then I see that he is doing a show in Brooklyn on Saturday, and I was going to be at like a Darty in Brooklyn on Saturday. So I was just like, oh, hey, I'll come to the show. And he's like, actually don't, because I'm bringing a date.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, really? Oh, okay. Like, and then, so I literally am at that point, just like super miserable. I go to the Darty, I get drunk, I bang a random guy with a condom. And then I see him on Monday, and basically he tells me that he was never planning on, he was always going to be single. He didn't want that with me, and that we could sleep together, but see other people. And really the idea was, I'm like, so he's been just swiping on Brooklyn chicks this whole time, trying to find some girl who raves, doing the whole thing. Like, I can't believe that I misread this so hard. And also, like, the fact that we did basically the first time we hooked up, like, he's like, he asked if we needed a condom, and I said I was on birth control. So we didn't use a condom the first time. So I'm like, sure. I'm supposed to believe that you're not using them with me, but you're using them with everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, that was real. And then after he kind of left, and we ended on like a fine note, because the thing I do when I'm in like a relationship conflict situation is I don't really yell. I just turn inward and cry a lot and just be like, I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be good enough. So like, it's the whole thing. And he just kind of keeps telling me that like he's being single, so he knows he can be fine on his own. I think he has a girlfriend now, so I'm like, whatever. But like, so he's like, you have to be okay on your own too. And I'm like, all right, get out of my house. I'm gonna watch Bridgerton alone. But that's literally what I said. And I feel weird talking about this because we are fine now, but I don't think he's gonna listen to this. But it so
and we can cut out whatever you want.
That's
by the way.
that's fine. That's fine. It all happened. So no lies. But so really the feeling I had after that is like, if this person doesn't, whom I thought I had this great connection with and whom I have so much in common with and get along with so well, and we have the same dreams and we support each other and the sex is amazing. If this person doesn't want me, who the fuck will? You know what I mean?
Sarah.
Like, and that's kind of, that's how it always goes to. It's always like, for me, a lot of the relationships I've been in have either been like, they never get to that official stage because the guy's just not that into it, or I'm dating them and they are like, listen, I'm breaking up with you because it's just not you. You know what I mean? And I feel like that hurts so much more than even if they had a specific reason. Because my thought is like, with this guy, it was like, if I was good enough, your whole I'm staying single thing, you would throw that out the window. And I know there's a lot of like, I don't know what side of the internet you're on, but in girl world, there's a lot of like, some people say like, for the right woman, a man will abandon all that. Some say that it doesn't matter who you are, a man won't until he's ready.
I believe that to an extent, and here's my thing with it, right? And it's like, look, for just talking about like from the male perspective of a situation like this, right? Because one, I think it's beautiful you're opening up about this, because I feel like so many women out there are going to resonate with this and
Girls,
have been through something, have been through similar experiences. From a guy's perspective, I used to be a jerk like this too. I used to be like out dating apps, whatever, like, and I used to, but it came from a similar place where like I was with a girl in college and I had it's a very similar statement to what you said. I was like, if it doesn't work out with this person, then I don't know who the heck it's going to work out with. So and it was tough too, because like growing up, I never really got validation from
Neither
girls.
did I.
Girls often,
That's the thing. Were you an overweight child?
Yes.
Me too.
Oh my God, were you as well?
Yes.
Oh
I just started writing jokes, so I was an overweight child. I wasn't like the popular girl, the pretty girl, whatever. So that's all I wanted, right?
Yes.
That's you just wanted were the jock, the football player,
Yes, absolutely. And
So-
then I became a tour guide and did improv in college, which was that's not the key to success for anyone wondering.
If your college improv doesn't get you laid, that's crazy, dude. What? I became a whore in college, is what I did.
Well, that's the other route you can take as well. Which,
I just started realizing, like, I can sleep with guys. Like, I'll sleep with whoever. So I think my freshman year of college, I slept with like 10 guys, just because I could, No,
absolutely, and it's hard because you come from high school, which is a place like. I had sex in high school, brag. No, but it was like, I lost my virginity in a baseball dugout, if you can believe it. Which, and let me tell you, that hole is lower than you think it is.
Disgusting.
It is, that is, I know.
Oh, that doesn't sound comfortable at all.
No, what was weird, we did it standing up, which is why.
Standing up is so advanced for your first time.
I could not, it was bad. And then
bad.
she cried, I cried.
Get it,
wasn't
understood.
Good. But I have
my
a joke.
first time was in college, and it was like after a frat party. Technically, it was weird. We tried to do it on the toilet at the frat house with the seat down.
Sarah, that was your first time?
I
like how you said seat down as if it makes it better.
It makes a difference.
No, first time.
First time. Honestly, I wasn't really attached to it though, because I kind of had the feeling that my first time was going to be just like awkward and weird. So I was like, let me just figure out the mechanics of this.
Sure. Which I think for your first time is an okay attitude. I do wish you maybe had it with someone who I imagine
it was more. Part of me is like, do I wish it had been more special?
Yeah.
Because it gave me a view of sex as something that I still hold kind of as like, sometimes I'm like, sometimes it doesn't mean anything emotionally, or sometimes it's like it more is something that like you have to do. I don't know. So I think I kind of wish maybe I was in such a rush to like get rid of my virginity because I didn't want to be a virgin anymore.
Yeah,
and I was impatient. So like you said, so like throughout my adult life, like men and dating has been something that gives me validation. And sometimes I don't even think, and I'm sure you were like this too, I don't even think about like, do I like this person?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And no, you're 1,000% right. And I think what that leads to, so going back to our conversation, right? It's like, do I think that's true for men, where it's like they will give up everything for the right girl? Mm-hmm. I think to an extent, men have to be in a certain place for that. And I can tell you from my experience, mm-hmm. I've had a lot of relationships where I was a jerk and I was an asshole. Mm-hmm. And what had to happen for me was I needed to have some pretty bad breakups, be alone for a little bit, and say, okay, this casual thing is not what I want. Yeah. And it sounds cheesy, but I do believe in manifestation to a point, because when you manifest and you do those things for yourself, your actions change. Yeah. I went on more dates. I started meeting people. I met my girlfriend in real life.
That's awesome.
I did not,
That's rare.
Which is something I recommend. If you're under 5'8", you have to do, because no girl will give you the time of day.
Yeah.
I had wonderful conversations with girls at parties, and then I would hear back from friends, you're too short. Yeah. She doesn't want to, she's not into it.
Sure.
But it's like we had chemistry and stuff like that. And but again, and here's my other thing too that I actually wanted to talk about, and I was thinking about this earlier today, is everyone's looking for that genuine connection. Yeah. But we're not assessing the right things.
Not at all.
Like, so for example, like my girlfriend and I would say this if she was here, and I think I actually said this on the last podcast episode, so maybe I need to stop saying it. We were not sexually compatible at first.
Got it.
We almost broke up because of it.
Really?
And yeah, absolutely.
I had a relationship end most likely because of that. It was not, and to be honest, the sex was it was just like my first like very serious relationship. It was like in my early 20s. I thought I was gonna marry that guy, and did
the early
not.
20s gonna marry this person is yes. I feel you.
I would never have done stand up. I would have moved to North Carolina with him when he went to law school. I know.
Yeah, it would have been a loss for stand up.
I know. I feel like we would have gotten married and divorced, and then I would have started, but it would have been later. We were not as sexually compatible, and a lot of it had to do with like when I was dating him, I was like kind of dealing with like trying to recover and get through with like my eating disorder and stuff. Sure. And I was on Zoloft, so I had no sex drive. So like, and I couldn't, it was just, I couldn't give what he was looking for, because he was a 22-year-old guy and thought all women were porn stars. So like, it was just a tough match.
That, man, and when it gets even more concerning now, because that is how people learn about sex now.
No, I am someone who will also be very open about this, that I am now that I've kind of played into my 20s and like kind of been more comfortable with my sexuality, kink and BDSM, huge for me. I love it. And part of the reason that I was so with this one guy is that we were so sexually compatible in that regard, but that requires a lot of communication and consent and boundaries, and a lot of communication during, and a lot of willingness to, if something is not work, like I've had to stop in the middle of sex because I was crying, whatever, and he had to be like, yeah, we're done, we're chilling. A lot of like young boys, if you're 18 and in high school and watching and choking people, like you don't have the frontal lobe development yet to actually be able to handle that emotionally. And same with any, like a lot of that stuff too is like, men might think that women, because so much porn is like just made for men to think that women are only there to like, so there's not a lot of like the pleasure on her side. So they're just getting the wrong idea. And I think, but so like you say, in a relationship with the other person, you have to like, take the feedback and grow and iterate. And it is tough in the beginning.
Because it hurts your ego. Yeah. Like it's very, like because when you get rejected in that very intimate setting, you're like, oh my God, it's me. Like, I think, I'm trying to balance this without getting specifically, but like, we had done something in bed that I was into and maybe she wasn't. Sure. And she, obviously like I stopped or whatever. And then she, she was like, I'm not into that. And then I was like, it makes you, when you're in that state, you're like, oh my God, like I can't be with this person if they're not into like what I am or like whatever like that. But what I would say to people listening is like, you have to, when you're choosing a person, and you're looking for those really genuine connections, make your decision based on those factors. Don't make it based on looks.
Because some stuff can grow, you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
And we have incredible sex now.
Yeah.
Okay, this is
Brag.
okay, you want to hear a brag?
I want to hear a brag.
All right, so I asked her, which is so funny because I'm very insecure. So every woman I've ever been with, I've always been like, is it good? Like, am I good? Am I good? Which I'm sure women have heard from men too often,
Yes,
which is
yes.
every man I've had sex with is the best man I've had sex with. But I asked her, like early on, and I was like, is it like good for you? And she goes, Matt, I feel like I haven't had sex till we had sex.
Let's go.
And I have never asked again.
Boy.
I've never asked again. But it's because of that. It's because we worked past our initial, and found that level. And it's because I chose. And I'd say this if she was here. She's not my typical physical type. She is not. She is a petite, athletic redhead. I usually go for like curvier brunettes is my typical type, but I gave, I think the problem is a lot of people will prioritize your type over the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with.
Yeah.
And that's where I think there's the disconnect today, especially with dating.
I think so, but it's like I've kind of also fell for that where like, slept with someone or dated someone because they were hot but not a good person.
Yeah.
Or
well, yeah, that's
or money or they're tall or something like that, and it doesn't lead to like the partnership that you want. And I think the reason that I was so like upset with this thing is that like with this one dude, it seemed like, no, this actually does seem like somebody who I could build something with.
Sure.
And it didn't work out that way. And I was not his physical type at all. He usually dated almost exclusively black women.
Okay.
And I'm like, what? That's a crazy switch. And then I think he's dating a black woman now. So I'm like, you went black, you went back, and you went back again.
You're like the biggest Taylor Swift fan on the planet. And it's like...
I got no melanin, man. None. Zero.
But I do want to ask, because I think it's such an interesting thing in that moment, because we've all felt that way in that moment. Looking back, do you think to yourself, in the way that you've grown, are you like, that's a silly way to think about? And I'm not saying this to diminish how you feel, but I'm saying, like, do you look back and you're like, that was such a silly way to feel, because if it wasn't going to work out those 3 months, it wasn't going to work out long term? Yeah,
and I think that part of it, I had to look back at myself and be like, you were so, did you want this to work out just because you wanted something to work out? Like, sure. A lot of it is, and we were talking again about like, I went through another like kind of rejection scenario literally 3 days ago. So you're getting it live. But am I upset about this because I am upset that I'm not going to get, the future with this person who I thought was really great? Or am I upset about this because I'm taking this as a data point to validate all the shit that I feel bad about myself for? So if I have the thought that like, no man wants me, I'm ugly, I'm hideous, I'm annoying to be around, this feels like data for that. So is it just that like this is reaffirming a bad belief that I have? And it honestly felt more like that. There was part of it that's like, I miss this person. I sometimes like, I had sex with a couple people after him, like pretty quickly, trying to get over it. Sure. And it honestly made me feel worse because the sex I was having with them, it didn't feel the same, and it didn't feel, you know what I mean? I'm like, you don't necessarily want to be fucking this person right now. You want to be fucking this other guy, but you can't. So you're going for this person to prove something. So it was, so there was some of that. There was some of the, I miss the uniqueness about this person and our dynamic. But the other thing is that I kind of thought that this is just like, okay, another rejection. This always happens to me. So that's the rewiring of the brain that I needed to do, and I still need to do. Yeah, and it's still so fresh, so it's very hard to do right now. Yeah. But then the other thing that ended the scenario is that the hard part is that, I did come out of it with this STD that does make it a little bit harder. 100%. Well, you have this symptom now that literally is staying with you. Yeah. No, 100%. I have a joke about how I like it because I'm like, oh, he was thinking about me. That's why I have an outbreak now. He loves me still. Whenever it shows up. These are our herpes. But it does, and it's like a physical reminder. But it does make dating a little bit harder. Well, I will say that I have in the partners I've had since, it hasn't ever been a big. First of all, sometimes I haven't even had to disclose because there've been a couple guys who've like seen me at shows and heard the joke,
Sure.
or heard brag. I've only gone home with an audience member one time, but it was
awesome.
after I did roast battle at the Comedy Mothership, and the guy heard the herpes jokes about me. So just like after, I was like, when we were like getting back to his house, I'm like, just so you know, that was true. Like this,
Sure.
So
How did he react?
He was like, oh yeah, I figured,
That's awesome.
He's like, I just, use protection, whatever. And I was like, okay, like, so that's how men generally don't view it as too much of a hurdle. Cause and they, for the most part, people understand that if you're not symptomatic, which nobody should ever have sex with a herpes outbreak because it hurts. Like, it's not pleasant.
Right.
But, it was like, most people, but some people, have been like, it takes people aback and they kind of think it's gross. And can
I pose something? Because I feel like again, maybe this is trying to be too optimistic, but I feel like a quality man, if he really likes you, will approach it maturely.
I think so.
Yeah. So
that's kind of what I do. You listen to Dan Savage at all?
I don't.
He's a great sex and relationships podcast guy. He's got a great podcast. It's like a Q&A, so it's so interesting because it's
it called?
It's called the Savage Love Cast. It's been on for like 20 years. Basically, people write in their sex questions and he answers. So it's so fascinating to hear.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
But
I want to do a Q&A with this.
That would be awesome.
Do you think that would work?
Call in.
Oh yeah. I would love that. Oh my god, maybe we'll take voicemails. I'm going to take that back.
That would be awesome. Yeah. So I love the Q&A podcast because we're all so nosy. You know what I mean? And it's very because sometimes I think sometimes the podcast, if it's like it helps break it up. So I love it. But what he says is that like there's a phenomenon where with anything, like you could be, I don't know, it could be an STD, but it could be like, I don't know, something about your past or something about, another thing in your life. And you tell them one thing about you and their reaction tells you everything you need to know about them. So if I, was seeing a guy and, we were going to sleep together and I was honest saying that I had an STD, whatever, and he was like, gross, disgusting, you're dirty whore, then I would be like, oh, then I don't want to, you suck. You know what I mean? Like you're the worst. So I think that, if I'm sure it would be hard to be like that in the moment because it might sting a little bit, but in the back of your mind, I'm like, if someone's going to act like that towards somebody who has something that like a lot of people deal with or something that isn't that even big of it or whatever, like, then you don't want to be with them anyway.
100%. And so I have a bombshell to drop. I've actually had an STD as well. Not a permanent one, but it was I had chlamydia in college.
Got it.
So in a similar way, I had to go back and I was at the top of my game. I had sex with 3 girls in 3 days, which was awesome. So I feel like such a douche.
That's awesome.
But I had my roommate come in after the 3rd girl left, and he goes, "Hey Matt, we're all just in the living room, and you're the man." And it's like I feel disgusting.
That's awesome.
I did not use protection with any of them, which is not
that's
great.
Tough. So you had to call them and tell them.
Anyway, so I had to go back and I had to call all these people, all these women and stuff like that. And some of them were very nice. And like, I realized I framed the phone call not great because I said I tested positive for chlamydia, but I just imagine someone hearing that in that moment and positive thinking like HIV, God forbid. So I'm like, you know what I mean? So I should have just said chlamydia first, but instead I did that, but it was fine.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 were very understanding, very nice about it. The 3rd one, who I'm suspicious I got it from, was very upset with me and was very angry. So to that point about how you need to think about how these people react, I completely agree.
And this guy didn't react well. Like, and I'm almost positive I got it from him. And, because I'm sure you were sleeping with other people. I don't think you were careful. And it's like, that was like kind of the only thing that like got me through it was I'm like, your reaction was not one of like, even that a friend would have of like care.
Yes.
Are you feeling, get to the testing and the who gave it to who later. But like, you should first ask me if I'm okay. And you
100%.
didn't. Yeah.
And it's so, Oh my God. And I love that advice too, because being in a serious relationship now, we're going on 3 years, it gets so much harder. It just, that's the other thing about like these relationships. If you have to choose someone who you can work past the hard times with, because if you're like, I feel bad. My girlfriend's sister just broke up with her boyfriend, and it was, yeah, I know. So and she's having a rough time with it, but I'm like, at the same time, it's like, you guys were fighting about stupid stuff, and it's not like that should be a symptom. You know, I dare say, I think it should be a good thing. Like you should look at it positively and say, at least we figured it out now, because I know people that are still together,
who should not be,
that are getting engaged and doing whatever, and that are going to live horrible lives.
Literally. Do you ever see a couple where you're like, God, you need to break up?
Well, yes, too many times I should say I've seen that, and it's just, that is their low point. Let me tell you. I want to get back, Sarah. So I want to talk a little bit more about how, like, I know we touched on it, but dating now, it's difficult to tell people.
It is difficult to tell people, only because there's never like an excellent time to bring it up.
Yeah.
Like, and so sometimes I'm like, I'm grateful that if somebody has like seen the joke or seen the clip or whatever, that I'm like, I did it. You know what I mean? Like, I just closed like to the internet.
Yeah.
So, you know. But there's never a great time to tell somebody, because first of all, you know, say you're on a date. It's a first date or a second date or a third date, whatever. You're at dinner, having drinks. How do you say, I have herpes? You know what I mean? Because like, especially if it's a first date and you're feeling a vibe, you don't want to be presumptuous and just be like that. But if you're also like right about to have sex and you're like making out or whatever, pause, I got herpes. Like, that's also difficult.
Yes.
So there isn't an excellent time to disclose. But so that's been challenging. And then the hard part too is that you don't know how they're going to react. So it's like, say you're on the couch, you're making out a little bit, whatever, and you say, oh, I have an STD, like, you know, I need to use protection, I had to tell you. They might be like, okay, then no, I don't want, and then your ego is so bruised, you know? So there's always that kind of fear there. And then two, it's like just I don't even know what the fear is about, like them judging you or whatever, but you know, I think I'm just gonna have to keep doing it, and I'm gonna have to keep dating and keep having the experience until I like figure it out. And I actually there's a couple, I mean, the internet is great for everything. There's a couple Instagram accounts specifically kind of about that, for people with herpes, like herpes influencers, actually. There's this girl, her name is Cassie Black. I think her Instagram is Safe Slut, which we love. And it's all about, you know, she has herpes, and she like gives tips on disclosure, tips on like how to contact people, tips. She sells like an oil for like you have an outbreak. It's like soothing. So it's like,
that's nice.
And she you know, talks about safe sex, helps people get, you know, access to protection and antivirals and all that. So her account was really great. Actually, I connected with her, and I got an invite to this group called The House, which is a herpes positive sex club.
Oh,
cool!
Fun.
I haven't gone, but I think a sex club orgy might scare me a little bit. I have to say,
it's
too much going on.
Yes, and I am all for sexual exploration, and it does intimidate you if you have not gone to one before.
Yes, I can imagine. Have you been to Hacienda, where they do the naked show?
No, I haven't.
Well, now they're doing them at Bushwick Comedy Club.
You're kidding.
Which is a different vibe. That's the thing.
Are there people doing time in between like acts or anything?
Well, I mean, the naked show, it's just 6 comics doing stand-up, no clothes on.
I couldn't do that.
I've done it a lot.
And I respect the hell out of people do it. Oh, you've done it before?
I've done the naked show in Brooklyn 6 times, and I've done the what is it? The naked roast battle at Skankfest.
Can I? Oh my God! What is it like being naked in front of that many people?
It was crazy. There were 300 people there.
Stop, Sarah! And you were naked in front of them?
Oh yeah.
I don't mean to. I'm not shaming you. This is a big reaction for me.
I was against. Shout out Matthew Mitchell. Love him. Great comic. He's in Austin now. I was like literally like we were, and you know Katie Blunt.
Yes.
She
Yeah,
also went and did it. So
Okay.
we stuck together, and then Matthew, my partner, my roast opponent, I was like, almost like we were trauma bonded. I'm like, you are my lifeline up here because you're also doing this. And what I did, and also as a woman, a woman who's in shape, it was a little bit easier for me because I was like, this is a lot of incel dudes. They're looking at boobs. They're happy.
Sure.
But I was, first of all, drunk, stoned, like dissociated from my body. I cannot
Wow.
believe that I remembered all 5 of my jokes because you can't have your phone because they don't let people actually the battlers,
Where do you put it?
yeah, there's nowhere to put it. So I just had to remember my jokes. I wore a pink cowboy hat. I wore tassels on my nipples.
Oh, that's
And then I
fun.
took the tassels off and I threw
And you threw them in the crowd?
because we were
Oh,
in Vegas. So
they
it was
must have
like
went wild.
Yeah, and then I was kind of just. It almost felt like I was dissociated watching myself from above, and my opponent felt the same way.
Wow.
And so we were. I got through it because of him and Katie in the back. Because I'm like, I feel like we're going through this crazy experience, but also it was just. The worst part, not even all these people, it was that I'm like, oh, there's people that I know from
Yeah.
New York here, like, and some of my boys are here, and I
You get off
wish they
stage, they
were.
can't even look at you in the eye. They're like, "Hi, Sarah."
Dan Wicks and Robbie Goodwin, I'll call them out. They will admit to it. They didn't look me in the eye for a full day after that. And I was like, you could have left the room, boys. You didn't have to be in there. You didn't have to see this part of the show.
Oh my God.
But I will say with the naked comedy, to be honest, it and people of all shapes and sizes do it, and it's very, men I give a little bit more credit to because, like, for me, if you see a woman in a bathing suit, you kind of know what she looks like.
That's
You know what I mean?
true,
It's like, and
yeah.
I'm not spreading, so I'm just kind of standing.
Yeah.
And like, you're seeing boobs and, your vagina's there. For me, it's like, it's not for men. You're revealing something.
You're revealing your literal manhood.
I don't know
to-
what your manhood looks like. So I do. This sounds like a pick me, but I do think the naked show is more stressful for dudes.
Can I just again?
Yeah.
First off, thank you for acknowledging that
I think,
because
yeah.
I'm having so much anxiety thinking about
Yeah,
that
yeah,
even.
yeah.
And I used to be in really really good shape. I would never. I obviously whatever. But it's very reminiscent. I love this show on HBO. Do you watch Naked Attraction? I think it's called.
What is that?
It's a dating show, but they date naked.
Sweet.
And what they do is it's the contestant, and then it's 6 people blocked by like glass. And what they do is they go every round. I think 6 rounds. So every round they show a little bit more. So it's like at first it's like you see the genitals. Then it's like you go up, you see the torso. You see
Ooh.
then you see like the person, the face, and then you see
Wow.
and they're completely naked. And then you hear them speak or whatever. And then the person going and picking the person, then they get naked on the show. And then it's like that they meet naked.
Damn.
Which I think in a very weird way is a beautiful way to meet people today because there is so much stigma and people have to look a certain way online and everything like that. And it just, when you're watching it, you're remembering it's like, this is the human form and it is very flawed for everybody.
The thing of the naked show too is that not at the roast battle. The roast battle, the judges were naked, and also
Okay.
one of the judges, just the biggest hog I've ever seen in my life. I forget who it was. I wish I remembered. The naked show in Bushwick, half of the audience is naked out of choice. They're allowed to be. So sometimes you looking and you see a naked person back at you, and it's kind of comforting. You're like, oh.
That is really comforting.
She's got her titties out.
Yeah.
And to be honest, for me, the first time you do it, you're a little anxious, but then it's not very sexual. It's kind of goofy.
I see that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's the initial shock of, oh my God,
Yeah.
everyone's naked. And then when you're kind of in it, it's like, all right, we're just naked.
The host, he's the producer, and he starts off naked. So by the time the first comic goes up, and I've gone bullet, that's the bullet of all bullet spots right there.
Oh my God. Yeah, is it? Oh my God.
Yeah. But then, and I've also closed it, which is also different. But by the time the first it's just like, oh, another naked person. Like, so it really,
Wait, how many times have you done the show?
6.
Oh my God. Wow.
It pays well. It should. It does pay well.
Can we keep that in?
Yeah, absolutely. Keep that in for sure. It does pay well.
It pays well.
Yeah. But the thing is, they did it as sex club, which makes sense. And we would sit in the green room.
Which is the right setting for
Yes,
that.
we'd
Which is,
sit in the green room.
Yeah.
Which is like basically a supply closet, and it had just kink furniture and cleaning supplies in there, which is I'm glad they're cleaning. But Bushwick Comedy Club, love the boys who run that.
Oh my God.
I don't want to be naked at Bushwick Comedy Club.
Wait, were you guys naked in the green room too?
No, you keep your clothes on, and then basically you I
was gonna say that's a choice to be naked in the green room.
You keep your clothes on till like I wait until, and I think I am retired only because I did kind of bomb the last time I did it. Nobody was drinking and the room was half empty.
No.
You do not want to do the naked comedy show to a half empty room. When it's a sold out room, you can kind of feel okay about it.
Sure.
But when you're
it's just one dude.
Yeah, nobody was naked too. So I kind of bombed, and I'm like, you know what? Bombing naked doesn't feel good, so I'm done.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah. I guess. Oh my, it's.
But what I would usually do, so I avoid being naked as long as possible, is like I'll wait for the comic before me to get the light. But then I usually wear like either a big jacket or whatever that like zips, and I'm just like I take off all my clothes and I keep that jacket on to the last possible second, and then I just take it off before.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. To everybody that does that show, that's incredibly brave, and I really no, it's very positive. People talk, say they're body positive. Go and do that, and then so
literally
100%. I'm in awe because it takes incredible amount of courage.
I know. I've been trying to convince Anna and Grace to do it. They're like, never in our lives. Never.
Oh my God. That is wild.
Yeah.
And people can go check it out.
People can check out the Bushwick Comedy Club on Valentine's Day is when they're doing it.
They're doing it on Valentine's Day again?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That'll be something.
I'm like, what couples are going to Valentine's Day? I'm like, whose idea is that? Because I'm like, people want to go to like a romantic dinner, you know.
Some dude is like trying to just see naked girls. He's like, babe, we should go. It's going to be great.
But then the lineup is like 4 dudes and 1 girl. I think the producer tries to have at least 2 women on the lineup at all times. So there's not like only 1 woman doing. Although one time I did it. We're all so fucked in the head at this point. There's 5 of us in the lineup. It's me, 3 other New York comics, 1 comic who's coming in from DC, and the producer only knew her for Twitter, and she didn't know that naked meant naked. She thought she could
like
keep
bra and underwear or something.
So she kept her underwear on, and the producer was like, he was kind of confused, but then the 4 of us were mad. We were like, it's the naked. She should have known. We're all getting paid to be naked.
Can I say something? I think you're valid. That's a valid point.
Yeah.
But obviously, maybe she wouldn't have done it if she knew she had to get completely naked.
I think that was the point. And we can't, and they can't be like,
no, you can't. No,
take your underwear off.
No man today is going to be like, you have to get naked.
But we were in our head, we were like, if she was seriously committed to the art, she would have taken her clothes off. And then we had to be like, guys, we're the problem. She's normal.
I love that it's a question of commitment to the art. She doesn't want it.
She doesn't want it bad enough.
That is so effing funny.
Oh my God, comedy's crazy. Comedy's crazy.
It really is, man.
Yeah.
I can't top that because the craziest thing I've ever done in comedy, I think I did a show at a canoe house once, but that was just cold. That wasn't exciting.
Cold.
Yeah, those are really. But that's the great thing about comedy is you can do it anywhere. And it doesn't. So I actually want to pitch you this because I'm trying to do another different type of show here that's maybe not traditional stand-up. I was thinking of doing it, and please be honest because I'm going to spend like money and get people in here, so please don't yes me. But I want to call it Informal Therapy, and it's a panel of 4 comics, and we have 1 audience member come up, and we like interview about them. I love that. You do?
I love that. I think it's good because audience, especially because sometimes audience members love being a part of the show.
That's what I'm thinking.
And I think it would be a fun. People love the riffing shows, and it's kind of a mixture of like a live podcast and that. So I would say try it. Yeah.
100%. And then we're gonna like film it. I want to put it on YouTube. We'll put like the proper disclaimers and stuff like that. Yeah. And then I think we'll start with a comic opening up just so the crowd feels a little more, you know what I mean? But I feel like in here, it might do pretty well. So
I honestly think people would, because also people really will be more like, I mean, even you see when comics crowd work people, they'll like reveal stuff about them. So if you give them permission to, especially to, I mean, you think about like some audience members really think they are the show. And so
that's
anything that builds it in actually helps.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because Dan Janine, who's an amazing comic,
I love
him.
Dan Janine.
He's amazing,
Yeah.
and he's so kind. He did the show once, and there was in this bookstore there was a drunk heckler in the back, and I remember after the show he was like, I needed that because I haven't like worked like that in a while, which was funny. But and that's I think the detriment of these like crowd work clips and stuff, and not to say. Listen, obviously, people have to put themselves out there. Like, I'm not dissing that, but I am saying that it does make audience members, when they go to a comedy show, have the expectation, like, oh, I can interact.
They're scared. People won't sit in the front because, like, I'm going to get talked to.
It is,
but, which is why, shout out, this is a great trick, Kitty Reynolds, who's a wonderful comic, and I was on one of her shows when she was hosting, and she, like, asked the crowd, like, who wants to be talked to? So
that's fun.
And then one time, the last time I dealt with a pretty bad heckler was I was hosting Roast Battle at Grove, and you know that crowd can get a little rowdy because they're there for that. And I really didn't handle it that great. I was trying to ignore her, and it kind of threw off the flow of the show.
Yeah.
So the next time I hosted, what I did was I picked a table in the front to be, because the format, for those who don't know, it's like two comics go up. They say their jokes back and forth, and there's a panel of judges who like give commentary, and they pick a winner. So I had a table in the front be like the fifth judge, and not have their vote count for anything, but let them give their little quips and let other people in the audience kind of comment on the battles. They thought like they were a part of the show.
That's really smart.
So it's like, so that's your point. I think like there would definitely be audience people who would you pick the person in advance, or would you?
We could. I think we would have like signups for it.
Would you have like one person or like multiple people?
I think we would do multiple, maybe like 15 minutes on one person.
Sweet.
And then,
Sweet.
So I think we would do that. I would have signups before, just because I would also panic, like, oh my God, nobody wants to do it.
Yeah.
And then I'd ask comics to maybe come with like some stories or something that they want to do as well. What I love about the example you said is that you're giving them what they want, but in like a controlled
But we
dose.
still control it, yeah.
Yes. It's like almost like, oh my God, I think about this example all the time. My father is obsessed with Laffy Taffy, and it's because growing up he wasn't allowed to have any candy.
Yeah.
But if you gave him one piece of candy like a week or a day, whatever the rate would be, he would not go out to CVS as a 65-year-old man and buy buckets
like,
of
you
Laffy
can have all
Taffy.
the Laffy Taffy you want.
He's like, I'm an adult now. I'm retired.
Literally,
he's not retired. He'll never retire.
That's that's what you would do with the audience. I like that,
Yeah.
and this is a cozy setting.
Yeah, and that's what I want to do. I mean, we did the storytelling show, which was awesome, and it helped me like work out like my solo show here. It was really cozy, intimate. This bookstore, man, is so. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And they let us do so much here.
Yeah.
Obviously, like she lets me do the podcast here, and we do. So, yeah, I mean, she's amazing. Symposium Bookstore in Hoboken. Again, I plug it all up top.
When is the next Buy a Book, Mike?
Sunday, if you want to come through.
I'll be upstate.
That's okay. Do you have a show?
No, I'm going to a spa.
Oh, what's
My
spa?
mom and my sisters.
Oh, that's
yes,
nice. Do you have two sisters?
Two sisters,
Oh,
yes.
nice.
You're coming to our birthday on Saturday.
I'm so
right?
excited. I can't wait.
It's going to be an open bar.
I haven't been to one since I was like 25.
Yes,
oh my
each
God.
of us, we're each coughing up a certain amount of money to the tab for the open bar.
Is there no cover for us to go in?
No cover. We rented.
I need to compliment you on this. That is a classy ass effing move.
Yeah.
Because, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
You want to hear something ridiculous?
I do.
I used to be friends with this couple in Hoboken. They charged a cover fee for their engagement party. $80 per person for a meal and open bar. For their engagement party.
Absolutely not.
I didn't go, and we're not friends anymore.
No, that's
Can you
crazy.
imagine?
That's crazy.
And people brought gifts.
Yeah.
I was like, you're stupid for bringing gifts.
No.
Why would you? That is ridiculous. Your gift is you paying to go.
Our thought. Well, first of all, the place that we booked it at is there's no like fee for the room, so we have the room all night. So we're like, or there's no minimum tab. So we thought we'd have to pay a fee. Since we didn't, we're like, let's just put this towards the bar tab. And the point too is like if you're throwing a party and you're hosting in your home or in a venue or whatever, that's on you.
And not enough people get that.
Yeah. I thought about doing, first of all, a birthday roast, but then I'm like, I do so many roasts already.
Well, that was the other thing I wanted to bring up as well, is you do so many roasts, and I've seen clips in there, hilarious. People should check them out on her social media. Do you view them, I'm only asking because this is how like I see a lot of roasts.
Yes.
They're amazing joke writing exercises to really
That's why I do it, because it's not good for your self-esteem. Well, two reasons why I do it. It's not good for your self-esteem. You find out new things that are wrong with you every time, or at least I did. I found out like a bunch of new things that were wrong with me. I was like, shit, really? I didn't know that. I didn't know to be insecure about that.
That's so interesting though, because then you can take that back and be like, this is something that stands out. This is how I'm seen by the audience.
Yeah.
So I should
Or
like
it's
address
like, I
this.
didn't know my mouth was too big. I thought that was, I didn't know. Like, and so it's stuff, but one, it is like a path in comedy that does get you opportunities, which is good. And two, great joke writing exercise. And that's what I tell people, because some people are like, I'm too sensitive to do it. I'm like, if you can push past that, what it will do is teach one, it's it can be very formulaic, so it forces you to play with like logic, words, word economy, because you have 5 jokes and they should be as tight as possible. You can't do, unless you're like, if you know, do you know John Ajota?
I don't.
He's like the champ. He's the best, one of the best in the world, and he's in New York. And he sometimes does like long, funny bits. But unless you're like that guy and you're really like taking the artistic risk, you need to write a tight joke that's very punchy, and that helps you in your stand-up. And also sometimes, because basically it's just punchlines. And so like if I have to write 5 jokes, I'll maybe write 15 or 20. And sometimes a roast joke does well enough that I will construct a bit around it to put it in my regular set.
And how do you do that? Because I imagine the joke is about a specific person.
Yeah, I just make up a story,
nice.
or I make up, or I tie it to, or I add it as a tag to something that's kind of related. But yeah, so I would say great joke writing exercise. The only thing is though, sometimes I'll be doing those and I'll write those jokes and not work on my own jokes.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the trend. It's not like you're not writing,
It's
though.
it's balance. I mean, I'm writing constantly, so it's like balance. I will say anything that is like more of a commentary style of comedy, I think it helps you in the specific type of comic that you are trying to be. Anything that gets you to be a better writer, I think you should do it.
100%. And there's so many.
I feel like, I mean, you're the same way. Like as a storyteller, writing is so important.
Yeah. 100%. And I'm trying to strike this balance now because I'm very lucky. I'm doing 25 minutes on a road gig at the end of February.
Sweet.
So, but it has to be clean. So yeah, which to me, I love that challenge.
I think that is a challenge. I think you could do it though.
I think so too, because my material's not.
It's not filthy.
No, it's not filthy. There's definitely some stuff I have to take out.
What's the definition of clean?
That's what I need to talk to my partner Gabe Malika, who's on this podcast. I have to talk with him about it. We're gonna have a little bit of a meeting, but because I have this great weed joke that's been doing great. It's about how I went to my doctor and he was like, drugs destroy families, and I was like, my drug dealer is my brother, so like that's not gonna work.
That's clean to me.
That's what I think, but I need to get like, and I hope it worked because it's a good joke. But I need to speak with him because I think there's a family raffle, and I'm like, okay, I'm like trying to put context clues together. It might not work. But here's my thing: is like I'm not naive. I know how I come across. I like working clean. And I was watching Nate Bargatze actually talk about this. He likes comedy that can appeal to everybody.
Yeah, which is the best.
Oh my god, he's incredible, and I really like that. And I feel like I would do, I would do well clean as well.
I think so.
Yeah. So I'm, but
I have a challenge to write more clean jokes. Or honestly, the definition is different because it's like, okay, you can't say fuck, shit, tits. Like you can't say that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't talk about sex. Like you shouldn't, that's obvious. But other stuff, like just a joke about like, oh, I buy weed. Like there's nothing wrong. Like a child's, that's not going to like disrupt. I don't know.
It's interesting like where that line is. And the thing is, I think it changes depending on the gig. Yeah. You know what I mean? So no, it's an interesting exercise to do. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, another very interesting exercise, which I don't know if Katie Blunt, who I mentioned earlier, she's so funny. Yeah, she's so funny. She does a family show at Westside. So
I
it's
did not know
kids
that.
and family show.
No, I did know that. Yes, I've seen that show.
She asked me to do it once, and I've been very much like, don't book me on that. I don't have any material because clean is also different than appeals to children.
Yes,
that's very different.
Those are very different things.
So that's a great like having to work because children. One, have no like social grace to sit there and listen. If they're bored, they're bored. They're gonna talk. They're gonna color. They're not gonna laugh. So that was a great challenge too, because basically I'm like, okay, I'm not doing any of my material. I'm gonna crowd work the kids and like do that. Some other comics were doing material that was like clean and fine for kids to hear, but it was like I got fired from my job, and like that's tough because it's like, okay, the kid doesn't care about that.
Yeah, and I get what you mean. Where like. By the book, that is acceptable material, but you're not going to connect with kids over that, But
then, like, I don't know.
There's no kids working 9 to 5s.
Somebody did like a joke about a zipper that was like probably from a joke book, and it fucking ripped. Or like, Ian Levy, he gave me this joke for the kids show. He said, you can say, knock, knock, who's there? And you say, I eat mop. And they say, I eat my poo. And you say, you eat your poo? That's disgusting.
Did it rip?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The kids loved it.
You dropped the mic on stage. I'd be in the back losing my mind.
Some things are so funny. And there's this comic. He's in Austin now. His name is Peyton Ruddy, and he's the funniest person. I love watching him because he'll just post clips where his pants fall down and he's just showing his bare ass crack, and I'm like, he's a great comic and a great joke writer, but I'm like, nothing I ever write is ever going to be funnier than some dude showing his ass crack. Nothing.
There's a great Maria. Do you know Maria Bamford?
Yes, I love her.
Oh, there is a great TikTok clip of her that's going around that she's talking about. She's doing some sort of preface where it's like, she's like, I'm a white woman with anxiety, and then she plays that character that's bored of hearing that same old cliche. But she falls and falls asleep on stage, to the floor. You've seen it?
Yes.
I lost my mind.
I lost interest in my own narrative. Nothing is funnier than somebody falling down, or a video of a kid getting knocked over or something like that.
Oh my God. And I love when people play with that physicality on stage.
I know.
It's so impressive when I see that. Just because I feel like we're similar in the sense we're so focused on the actual writing of the joke.
I know.
But oh my God, when that physicality. Ryan, do you know Ryan Lynch? Oh, okay. He's a great comic.
I do. Yes, I do. Blonde guy.
Yeah. He did the show too, and he really, it's a limited space, but he used it very well, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was so funny. I want to go back. Okay. So, is there anything you want to close on in terms of, what's someone who, that might be.
Yeah. The girls in my situation. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the advice that I've been getting and the stuff I'm trying to work through is that, and really what I've learned is that all the way in the tangents we went on back to herpes and self-worth and all that. The idea is, and this is what people tell me, and sometimes I don't want to hear it. My friends have tried to give me this advice. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Especially if they're in relationships, my friend Nicole will be like, your beliefs create your reality. If you believe that you're not worthy, then you're not going to attract a partner. I'm like, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear that.
Sure.
But I think what it comes from, really the message of that, which I do take, is that you need to have the validation from yourself, because
totally,
first of all, even if you get the partner, the career, the social media, you're still going to be missing that because it's never going to be enough. And the goalpost is always changing. So if you use that external validation to make you feel okay, then you're gonna live to you know what I mean? It's never gonna fill. It needs to come from in you, because if I had that sense of self and sense of confidence, I think okay, this guy doesn't want to be with me, fine. Okay, totally. I didn't get into that festival, fine. I'm gonna be okay. And so that's what I'm working on now, I think.
And I think it's a great point. And I think for single people listening, it is 10 times harder to do that when you're alone. Because one of the greatest gifts my partner has given me is she has been the evidence that I am enough and I can be who I am.
Because she's a great person and she loves you.
Yes, and because she loves me, and I can look back and I'm like, because before I met her, I would have trouble believing that, because I'm like, if I'm myself, then no one's going to want to be with me. Yeah, which is funny, because turn it the other way. Now that I've been myself and been whatever, I'm the best version of myself I've ever been. So it is. So I
if you build that foundation when you are single, though, I do think it is it's only going to serve you in relations, because then also
100% I agree.
Then also too, if somebody's mistreating you or whatever, or somebody does something you don't like, or they cheat or anything, you are confident enough to walk away. And whereas if it didn't have that kind of self-esteem, I've been with guys who either they weren't that great, they weren't that nice, or they were kind of fucking with me a little bit, and I just accepted it because I'm like, okay, well, this person wants me, so I'll just stick with it.
Sure.
And that's that only hurts you. So I think the idea is that it's difficult, but it is worth it. And I'm doing a lot now of on Monday, I asked to see my therapist early, because I got great insurance for therapy, and it costs $20 a session.
That's
so I'm like,
awesome.
fuck it, I'll see her twice this week. I don't care. $40. I'm like, I made $20 doing a host set. There we go. Therapy money.
Perfect.
So I'm seeing her again, and I think we're working on stuff like that now, and really like going back into the childhood and figuring out kind of like where it started. And so it's like tough work, but I think it's pretty validating too. Like I feel like I'm finally ready to do it. So that's good.
Yeah, which is wonderful to hear. I guess if you're thinking back to that person, let me ask you this: how do you view your herpes now? Because was it something like you were ashamed of when you first got it?
Honestly, like what I just view it as something I have to live with. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think it's shameful. I think it's something that, like, you know, a lot of people have it, and even like, you know, even though it's people think the cold sores, I'm like, no, it's the genital, which I think is maybe like 10% of American adults have it or something. I just view it as something I have to live with.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's honestly, to me, is more of a reminder of like the situation I found myself in and the devastation I felt. The disease itself to me almost means nothing.
Okay.
Weird.
Yeah.
Weird, right?
No, I don't think that's weird, and I think it's the most mature outlook you can have, right? Which is
hopefully.
that this is part of who I am now, and this is what I have to deal with.
And also, I mean, I think I've only had 2 outbreaks ever, and like, yeah, it's painful. It's not excellent, but like it's easy to. I have the medication in my house, so I don't even have to like go back to the doctor and get it. So it's like that's fine. Like it's manageable enough. You know what I mean?
And then you mentioned you had this. I think it was a Facebook group or some sort of group of people who are living with herpes as well. Have you found like solace and community there?
Well, I'll call her out again, Cassie Black, Safe Slut on Insta. I think it's SLVT, whatever, because you can't say that on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Her page is great. She does like panels and talks, and you know, also has like an online community. So like that was super helpful to me for information. So I would definitely look there if you're a woman and you get an STD and you want to like learn how to navigate that. I would highly recommend her page.
All right, that's fantastic. Sarah, is there anything else you want to plug?
Just follow me on Instagram at Sarah Barnitt. I'm around the city.
You have an email list too.
I do have an email list. I just started my email list.
I'm signed up.
Yes, Matt signed up. So all the cool kids are signed up. Yeah, you can find that on my Instagram bio. And I was just in Chicago, and I'm going to be back there for work. So I'm going to be doing a lot of shows there, hopefully. And I'm going to San Francisco in early March. So if anyone's in San Francisco, would love that. So yeah, sign up.
That's fantastic.
Anything you're plugging, Matt?
I'm going to plug it all up top, but just still work. We're doing, I'm very excited in the spring. We're doing some workshops for the solo show I'm working on, which should be very exciting. We're doing shows at the bookstore here, this podcast. Follow me on Instagram, all that good stuff. Sarah Barnitt, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This is delightful.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for listening to The Low Point, and hopefully we left you feeling a little bit higher.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Oh, this was so fun.
Oh, good. I'm so glad, Sarah.